Since the beginning of this pandemic, people have been pushing misinformation. And one of their favorite brands of misinformation is literally anything you should do rather than wear a mask, socially distance, get the vaccine. Anything else is good, those things are bad. So take drugs for all sorts of other stuff that don't treat COVID and take that instead. So they started off with hydroxychloroquine. They briefly dabbled in sunlight up your bum and a little bit of bleach, but then they got laughed at for that. So they quickly moved on to medicines for animals. And so ivermectin and all of that stuff that despite months and months more passing have not been demonstrated to actually help with treating COVID. But they have convinced people, these politicians as well as right-wing people in the news, and in media, including people like Joe Rogan, that is what you should get. And the consequence of this is that hospitals are now facing both legal challenges as well as harassment because they don't want to give people stuff that isn't a treatment for the illness they have. One Montana hospital went into lockdown and called police after a woman threatened violence because a relative was denied her request to be treated with ivermectin. Officials of a different Montana hospital accused public officials of threatening and harassing their healthcare workers for refusing to treat a politically connected COVID-19 patient with ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. In neighboring Idaho, a medical resident said police had to be called to a hospital after a COVID patient's relative verbally abused her and threatened physical violence because she would not prescribe ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. Dr. Ashley Carvalho said, "My patient was struggling to breathe, but the family refused to allow me to provide care." They don't want stuff that actually fixes it. They want the stuff that the podcasters and the YouTubers told them to take instead.
Right. Which is probably more harmful than the actual vaccine itself. I just don't.
Well, in terms of side effects, definitely. And it doesn't have the side effect of actually treating the illness.
It's really ridiculous. And it's not just conservatives, John. And you know this. There are people who consider themselves more liberal, who are anti-vaxxers and who have refused to get the vaccine. I've seen it amongst my own friend group, people who were positive with COVID and went to Whole Foods to pick up some bone broth or whatever they're gonna get. Just thinking, and I didn't get that sick, it wasn't that bad. Well, for you, but what about your 75-year-old grandmother or something? I mean, it's just the lack of concern for others is really kind of mind-boggling. And we're seeing a little bit of a trend in society right now that way across the board. We're seeing it like we saw at the Scott concert where there was the trampling of people and whatnot. You have to be aware of what's going on around you, and you have to be empathetic to those people, because guess what? You also are part of the masses. And if we don't care about each other, then you're also in danger. So we need to get this individualistic American pride ideology and become a little bit more collectivistic to think if we want to survive as a species, we need to work together. And part of that is, we've done it for generations. That's why we don't have polio. It's crazy. Let's keep doing it.
We did it for other stuff. And the anti-vax stuff is not new. I would say traditionally it seems like it was more sort of like liberals and stuff like that up until it became this big political thing. My only hope is that these treatment drugs somehow evade this pattern. That I understand it's difficult to imagine because it actually apparently treats COVID. So there's gonna be a lot of pressure on the right to not take it. But maybe it's not a vaccine. Maybe can we feed it to a donkey or something on camera? Maybe if they see a donkey take it,
then you're gonna get PETA after you, John. Don't get PETA after you. You don't need that.
I will deal with PETA if it stops the pandemic. How about that? For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.